Why would somebody watch this? What are they going to get from us, from you? So this is going to be a different type of video today. No gear reviews, no case studies, no shooting hacks on set. Well, who knows, maybe we'll talk about all of those things. But today we're going to have a sit-down conversation with the founder of North 40 and my now business partner, Jeff.
Hey.
So to introduce Jeff a little further, Jeff's been producing documentary and commercial films since 2006.
That's right.
He started this company as it is today in 2012. Is that fair to say? Should we say it that way?
We could say it that way, sure.
That seems the most safe in the world. You and I have been working together, Jeff and I have been working together since 2006.
That's true.
When you started your filmmaking career.
He was our first employee as a summer intern in high school.
Yeah, it's way back.
It was way back.
And Jeff, he wears many hats at North 40, but he is the producer extraordinaire. Among the many things that he does, he makes connections, he lands jobs, he makes sure that we stay on schedule and that we deliver projects on time and on budget.
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my job.
Our goal today is to jump off from this question. How has producing films and videos changed in the last 20 years that you've been doing this?
Well, I'd say to start off, it hasn't changed that much. I think that the projects have changed a lot. The types of projects we've been able to do, the gear we're using to do them, the people that we're working with to make them happen. Our clients have changed, but I don't think that the act of producing has changed much at all. I mean, to me, you basically, somebody comes to you with a challenge. You figure out the best way you know how to overcome that challenge. You propose that work to them. The client says yes or no, or maybe yes with modifications. And then you go about the business of making that film, whether it's a 30-second commercial all the way up to a feature film. And you're basically collecting all your resources, your assets, your staff, your gear, and you're going out and doing production. And then once production is complete, you're doing post-production. And through that whole process, you're managing, ensuring that the client's needs, the goals of the projects are being met. And so that has not changed from the beginning. We're just so much better at it.
We've come a long way.
We've come a long way.
Okay. What would you say if I said, give me the top 3 things that you have learned or changed in your process producing projects in 20 years? What comes to mind? That's
the notes process is something that we really had to figure out and to work very hard to teach our clients on how that's going to work, because that is where it goes completely south. If you don't have a good negotiation and an agreement on how that notes process is going to go, it doesn't always happen, but it can go really badly. And we've had clients that just gave us note after note, 14, 15 rounds of notes, and that kills a project pretty quickly.
Yeah.
When we first started off, the notes process was pretty gray, and our clients can just kind of keep us going until they like it. And obviously that didn't work very well. So today, we're very concise about it. It's in the contract. It basically says they have, unless we negotiate something entirely different, and that happens, but they get 1 round of notes, and then we show them how we've addressed those notes, and they get 1 round of notes on those addressed notes, and that is it. Mm-hmm. And if they want more than that, which sometimes they do,
yeah,
we can point back to the contract and our original agreement and say, this is going to cost a little bit more money.
Yeah, yeah.
And usually they're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Totally. Over 20 years, I think we have substantially less notes on our projects today than we used to, on average. I think that starts with how we talk about success criteria at the beginning of a project and sort of getting on the same page that I think we've evolved a lot in. Mm-hmm. How would you describe defining success criteria for our clients 20 years ago to today?
Well, kind of as I said in the beginning, I don't think that the way that we're producing films, sort of our approach hasn't changed dramatically. Everybody wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be understood. Mm-hmm. And we make a giant effort to make sure that our clients feel that way. And so ultimately, they become part of the team. And it's not us going, here's what you paid for. Mm-hmm. It's, we made this together. And that's made a huge difference.
Yeah. We do. I mean, I love baptizing our clients as co-producers on projects because we can't create incredible work without their support through the process.
And they 100% are.
They are.
Another thing that we've evolved a little bit is just, being maybe a little more clear on roles and responsibilities for things. I mean, I think you and I have worked long enough together that we don't necessarily have to say everything, and that might be a challenge for the other people around us. But we have evolved from a company. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest changes in the way that we produce films over the years. Is we evolved from a company that had 6 full-time staff, and everybody was doing everything, making sure that all the projects got done on time and on budget. And my job was to basically say, oh, you have some time, and here's a task. And so I'd say, go over here and do this task. And sometimes it wasn't a great fit, but I felt pretty responsible to make sure that somebody was busy and that the job got done. And that is not a great setup because certainly, I would say not a huge percentage of time, but it certainly happened where somebody got assigned a role because they didn't have anything else to do that really wasn't the role for them to play. Mm-hmm. And so the way that we've evolved is that now we have basically mostly subcontractors, but people who come in on a project base only, and they are going to work in their field of expertise, doing what they do best, what they like to do best when we need them. And that's been a huge change in the way we do business. And I mean, I think it's done a couple things. One, it's made the product so much better because we're able to, engage experts in their field, and that is a big deal. So that applies to post-production, and that applies to sound, and that applies to graphic design. You're still doing color, of course, but we're working on that. We're working on that. Wishful thinking. But it really improves the quality of the project in the end. 2, it's more efficient and cost-effective because I'm only using people in the moment when they're needed, and that allows us to forecast the budget for that and to say, oh, we're going to pass this through our amazing sound guy, and we know that it's going to cost about this, and so therefore I can put it in the budget pretty simply and say, that was the sound cost. But compare that to the past, it's kind of like this nebulous notion of, well, we all kind of worked on it, and we don't know exactly how many hours. In fact, we had some software that was trying to track all of our hours to the minute on every project.
It's tough.
And it didn't work great.
No.
So this is much more efficient. It's much more cost effective. You can see where you're making money and where you're losing money pretty quickly. So that's a huge change, and I think one for significant improvement in North 40's ability to deliver great projects.
In the world of finances, this is a completely different type of question, but how do you look at a project and give me the keys to the game to keep something profitable? Project comes in the door. What do we do to not lose money on a project?
That is the $1 million question, literally. I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. One is we've been doing this for 19 years now, so we actually do know how long things take. And we have the ability to estimate our time pretty accurately on a project because we've done something like it before. And it comes along, sometimes we do something drastically different, never done it before, and we inevitably lose a little bit of money on that. But that's okay. But I think the first thing you go to is just your experience. This feels like this project from the past, and this was the scope there. You're also feeling out the tolerance of the client. Where are they at? What do they think this should be worth? And then I think the first place you start is just a breakdown of hours. So how many hours of pre-production planning do you think? How much script do you need to write? How how much gear testing and scouting do you need to do? Do you need to do pre-interviews? And you're just basically kind of saying, yep, all these things we know we're going to have to do, and we can kind of estimate how many hours it's going to take, which roughly gives you a number. We figure out, yeah, it's going to take this amount of production. We have a production day rate. That's pretty easy. And they're just kind of calculating all the way through. The most nebulous line item is always in post. How long does it take for an editor to edit something? I don't know. But
we've gotten a lot better.
Well, certainly.
We have a fantastic head of post that knows how to look at a project and go, it's going to take me this.
Yeah, and he's, exactly the same thing, going back on more than 10 years of working in the industry, of knowing exactly how long it's going to take him to go through stuff. How he does it, I have no idea. But he does, and he is pretty accurate on those accounts. I think the other thing you're also doing is you're forming it to a restriction. You're basically saying, well, if we had all the money in the world, we'd maybe do it this way. But because we don't, we're going to do it this way. And so you confine yourself and just say, well, that's the very best thing we can do within the constraint of time that we have, time and money. So you get pretty good at balancing those things over time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're always looking at the project that you just did that's like it. What did you learn?
Mm-hmm.
And how can you refine this budget and process to keep things afloat?
Yeah.
Profitable.
That's the goal.
Uh-huh.
We've been able to do it. There's been some pretty serious ups and downs over the years, but surprisingly for 19 years we've been able to pay the rent and pay the payroll. And
it's pretty amazing.
I like to think so.
Let's talk, maybe this process hasn't changed in the last 20 years, but I feel like we talk about it differently than we did 5, 10, 15
Can I stop
years
you for a
ago.
second?
Yeah.
I did want to mention one other thing that has changed.
Yeah.
That I thought of that I don't want to lose because I will.
Yeah.
One other thing that I think has changed for North 40 over the years, and has been a super important and fantastic change, has been our ability to retain clients. I think early on, from 2006 to maybe 2015 or 17, we didn't have a lot of clients that came back to us. Our clientele were kind of almost, I would say every time, but a lot of times it was new, or we had a client come back to us. It would be some period of time between them calling us. And I don't think that's because they weren't happy, but they had a simple need. We satisfied it. They went on from there, and they didn't call us for 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that has happened is we are seeing the same clients come back to us more often.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super helpful. Because one, there's so much training that goes along with the client sort of creative relationship. And I don't think a lot of clients really have a super great understanding of the process. So you're explaining a lot. And first thing you're always trying to explain is that we spend a huge amount of time putting these things together. And so the cost, their idea of cost and the idea of what it takes to do these things is pretty far off. So every time you have a new client come through the door, you kind of have to train them on that and many other things. Mm-hmm. How they can be involved in the process, how they can help the process, or how they can hinder the process, the notes processes we talked about. Mm-hmm. These are all things that you do have to train your clients every time they come to the door. But when you have clients that come back to you, you don't have to train them anymore. No. And they have a very good understanding of what things take and what things cost. And hopefully you've built a relationship so they're actually producing with you, which is pretty amazing when that happens. Mm-hmm. But that has changed for North 40, and I think that we've worked with clients time and time again, and I really value that relationship because they're getting a lot of value out of us. We're working with the same people, so we know that sort of territory. We know their language. We know their field. We can provide more value there, so that's kind of a cool change. And I guess the last thing that comes to mind is that we're doing a lot more long-form films, which kind of blows my mind.
Somehow, some way, in the last 2 years, we've got 5 projects that are creeping over an hour.
So, not sure why. The opportunities kind of come at you and you respond accordingly. However, I think it is interesting that we're not only doing more of those feature-length pieces, but we're being paid to do those feature-length pieces, and people are hiring us to do those versus us just feeling like, oh, we should do a documentary about that.
Right.
Which is hard and expensive, and fundraising is probably, I mean, that would be a whole nother episode on fundraising for your own project,
Yes.
which would be depressing.
Yeah. How to fund passion projects?
Yeah, which I have a lot to say on that, but it's not easy, and it is so much better when somebody comes to you and wants to hire you to do a feature, and I welcome it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like once we put our first work for hire feature doc under our belt, which I would call Fish War, that's the one that we've been able to use. I know a lot of Fuss About a Parade was that. But you do a project, and you get to show it to other clients, and they go, oh, these guys do this. Mm-hmm. These guys make feature-length documentaries. That is something we want. And you get hired again.
Yep. It's pretty great.
It is.
Well, frankly, every small business is a challenge to succeed. I think that production film is also in that group. It's very hard to succeed at this business. I think it's doubly hard because we attempt to, box up a weight. You know, we are always attempting to do probably
The next weight class?
Yeah, we're doing a little bit
Punching
more.
above our weight.
There it is, punching. We're always punching above our weight with this sort of eternal optimism that we can do it and that we can get better and we can get bigger. And to me, the most important way to look at life is trajectory. It's like, are you on the pathway to where you want to be? And you're never where you're never in that moment where you want to be, but are you on the pathway there? And that's super critical to me. And 5 years ago, if we'd said we're going to have a bunch of films on PBS and win a regional Emmy, that would have been unbelievable. And we've done that. Are we happy with that? Not really. So what's the next place we're going? And we're always doing that. And that, in some ways, makes it hard for you to succeed in business because you're not just doing every little project that comes through the door and getting paid to do it. Like, we're not volume here at all.
No. We're not.
It's definitely quality over quantity, and we want to do the very best job we can. But every project needs to have sort of a purpose, and not just to keep the doors open, but also sort of fulfill your mission as a company. And our mission happens to be create amazing stories for our clients. But we also, I feel personally, that we can support and get behind every one of our clients' missions. Like
that is great.
That's the best part about what we do. And, we've talked about the highs and lows.
Yeah. Well, I would say that's a huge marker of success, is being able to say yes to the clients and projects that lock up with your core values. And we've been successful at doing that. Certainly today, 100% of the time, and historically some percentage of the time.
Still a high percentage, I would
percentage.
say.
Yeah.
I think it's also... much more attainable is that we're finding nonprofits and organizations, tribes, scientists, and people who have a mission to help the world, make it a better place. And we have been so fortunate for almost the entire time, as you say, some percentage, and probably more now than before. But we're able to help those people tell their story, which I'd like to think is making the world a better place. I mean, I guess I don't know how we've been so fortunate as to just be able to keep working with people who are trying to improve the world. Those nonprofits, those tribes, those government agencies. Part of me thinks, if we had been more attracted to corporate or commercial stuff, we might be evolving the way we do things in order to get the Patagonia or the OR kind of client. We could have hired staff specifically that was more sporty or more climbing based or more out in the field. We could have.
We got Ethan.
No.
I'm right here, guys.
Ethan fashions himself as a outdoorsy type.
The caveat there is we evolved into these other things long before you came along. And we did work for OR, and we did work for Diamondback. And, we were told that we were too expensive for them because they needed a lot more guerrilla, sort of just out in the field, a cheaper product, right? And so
Or a super high end.
or super high end, and we weren't high end enough. And I think that part of what we were trying to do was become more high end, and we haven't gone back to them with a pitch for doing more high end stuff, which I think we could. But we also, in that process of sort of evolving our craft and evolving our gear and evolving what we did, we became the perfect fit for an NGO or a tribe trying to tell a story. So we've evolved maybe more than we think we have into this space.
Oh, totally. And I think that is also a function of you're going to get more of the work you do. You get one job, you do it well. People in that industry, world, whatever sphere are going to say, oh, who did that piece? And you just start stockpiling the clients.
Yeah.
And be careful, I would say, in
Exactly.
what you choose to take on early or as you grow. And if maybe you don't put your, make something your calling card if it doesn't represent the kind of work you want to do. And we have made more than the type of project, the type of client, a calling card of like people wanting to make the world a better place. So we're getting jobs that
Fit that bill.
yeah.
Well, I think that is a really good tip for a person starting out in this field is that you do have to understand that every piece you do is your card, and that people are going to see it, especially as you say, in that genre or in that field. Salmon restoration for us, we did one project about salmon restoration, and then the state of Washington wanted the same thing. And so we went from working for a local organization who was doing good work on the ground here in Chelan County to doing the state of salmon in the entire state because we had done that. So you do have to be a little careful, but
Yeah.
knowing that your piece that you've just created is your calling card and your client is going to distribute your calling card for you, understanding that dynamic is really important because that's where you're going to get your next job.
Yeah. And if you don't have a job, I'll go even further. If you don't have a job or you're trying to figure out what to do, make the thing that you want to make in the future. Don't go
Right.
create something that has no interest to you, that you're not passionate about, that becomes a calling card in a direction you don't want to go.
Right.
Work on the stuff
Yeah,
that you
especially
want to be doing.
Especially if you have to do that for free in the beginning
Yeah.
to get more work.
Yeah.
You definitely want to pick your poison there.
Yeah. If you get to pick, then
Well, that's
make it what you want.
that is after 20 years that one of the beautiful things is that we have matured enough to be able to work in the fields we want to work into to a degree. We work with the people we want to work with from a client perspective, and we get to work with the people we want to on the production side
Yeah.
as well. And those are all really great things.
Major markers of success.
I think so.
Okay, let's do what is the best investment you've made as a production company owner?
Best investment. Well, clearly the answer is people. I mean, that's the majority of our costs, and we want to make sure that we have good people doing this work. And, to the point where we've paid people, we've hired more than we pay ourselves. That was just the reality of some steps we wanted to make. So yeah, it's people, 100%. My role as a producer or a manager of people is to create an environment where people can be successful. Like, I don't have a ton of artistic ego. Like, it doesn't have to be my way. In fact, I feel better when everybody's contributed and we've found something that I think might be better than anybody could have done individually. That's kind of my happy place. So I want people who are willing to be creative and to push back at times, but maybe they don't have to win also. So I say this often, but it's, defend your position and run to the middle. So creative tension and arguments over a direction are really beautiful, and they help the process. And I would say almost always comes out with a better product in the end if there is some creative tension going through the process. So that's super important to me.
Yeah.
So I want people who are willing to participate. I also like people who just get shit done. Like, I mean,
I can see it on the screen. Get shit done.
Well, this sounds probably facetious or I don't know what it sounds like, but I like rock stars. I like people who are going to deliver and over-deliver and know that that's what needs to happen. I don't want to be, while I'd like to manage and kind of give nudges and direction on what people should be doing, and certainly from a business perspective, I have to come in and say, well, I need you to be working on this, not this, even though I know you'd rather be working on this. This is more important than this moment. That's the kind of nudging I like to do. But I like it when people just go, oh, I'm super stoked about this, and I'm going to add a whole bunch to this, and I'm going to do a better job than you might. Just exceed expectations. And that always gets rewarded.
Yeah.
I like people who are fun. We spend a lot of time, especially on the production side.
You like fun people.
Well, I just like...
People who are fun to be around.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way to put it. But ultimately, we do spend a lot of time in the van and a lot of time on the road. And I want people I get along with. And I'm not saying that I'm easy to get along with at all. But I certainly get along better with certain kinds of people and maybe not as well with others. And so it is a matter of sort of picking the crew to make sure that we all get along, because we're going to spend a lot of time in that van, and we're going to spend 3 or 4 days or 5 days or 10 days on the road together. That's got to work.
Yeah. Oh, it's a novel thought. Don't work with assholes. But I completely agree.
Yeah.
There's highs and lows, and the people that you're next to can make or break something being a good experience or a bad experience.
And I think for the most part, we've been pretty successful.
Yeah.
The people that don't fit in get weeded out relatively quickly, whether they do self-weeding or we have to do it. Yeah, I definitely don't want to pretend that this is an easy place to work or I'm an easy person to work with.
I love where this is going.
Well, I try to be self-aware to the extent, but I think anybody who's stayed here for a long time definitely have an appreciation for them and can hang out with them and talk to them on a deep level and can get not angry, but be able to argue with. Like, that's a super important quality, is to be able to argue with somebody and then be able to resolve that without a bunch of personal issues coming into place. I mean,
totally.
Here's another super important tip for this world we live in, that we work in, is you have to be thick-skinned.
You do.
Yeah. It is not a personal attack to say this needs to change or I don't like this.
Yeah.
It is professional and it is important, and you got to go through that. And if you can't tolerate somebody saying, "Wow, the cut doesn't make sense," or "It doesn't work for me here," if you're personally offended by that, wrong business.
Yeah. Yeah. The collaborative arts craft collision of what we do. You spend most of your time talking about what's not working. You don't get in our world, it's not lots of pats on the back. This was really good.
It's almost like if you didn't say anything, then it's great.
It's great. That is the great compliment. Like, everything you did is working, so I have great.
No notes. That's
No
the
notes.
best. That's the best thing you can say. No notes. No, we obviously we try to compliment and appreciate
Totally
the hard work and all that. But at the end of the day, it is an industry based on constructive criticism, and you have to be able to handle that.
I would say one more thing that I think you appreciate, and when you're looking for people to invest in or link arms with on a project or a career, we want them to be hungry. Like, they can't really be satisfied, and this goes with over-delivering, but somebody who's always looking to improve is pretty key.
Yeah, constant improvement is a mantra around here, and I would hope that everybody who works at North 40 or works with the North 40 in some way wants that. It's the same thing as the trajectory that we talked about, is that you're always looking where you want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, not where you are. If you're satisfied with where you are and what you're doing right now, that will become a problem. Not today, but it's definitely going to become a problem, and we've seen that play out. multiple
Totally.
times, multiple ways.
Totally. Okay. Worst investment in the last 20 years. And if we want to take it straight into gear and do best worst gear pieces, we can go right to there. If there's some higher level worst investment, then I would definitely want that.
It's really hard to come up with something that was like the worst investment. I mean, there's definitely been some gear. We've sunk a lot of money into, I wouldn't say a lot, but there have been some things in the gear land that we didn't use that maybe we thought we would use. I mean, a couple of instances, we bought a camera one time for this one project that we didn't even get, and that was a bad investment.
This is in the 2008-9 kind of range?
10.
2010?
Yeah, we bought, a $10,000 camera, which seems like nothing now.
But then that's
a huge
massive
amount of
investment.
It was probably 4 times anything we'd ever spent on a camera before.
Okay.
That was that motorized dolly system that we
The Kessler Cinedrive.
yeah.
That comes to mind when you think of like, why in the heck did we buy this?
Yeah, for sure. And
Okay.
I think it's a great product, and we did use it pretty functionally a couple times, but it was just something we weren't going to use.
It wasn't fast to deploy, and it didn't fit our workflow, the kinds of projects that we did. And we sold it.
We did.
Actually,
It got lost.
got lost in the mail, and Adorama, one of those. They lost it, and then basically gave us $7,500 for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The funny one is the Ron Burgundy.
Oh. Is that the start of the best thing we've ever done, which is stop going to shoots in our personal vehicles and get a company rig?
It coulda, shoulda, woulda been the best thing we'd ever done, but it turned out to be a pretty big lemon just a money pit that we threw money at for a long time.
Yeah.
Until we went to our second van, which was not a fiasco, but not very well loved, until we finally got the Thiele van, and then now we're just super happy in the van world.
Yeah.
But it was that first van. What a nightmare! I mean, just never. Here's a pro tip: never buy a van to go on a trip. A 20-day trip to California. Don't go buy the van the day before. Especially a used van that you had to fly to Montana and drive back the day before you're leaving on a 20-day trip, production trip to California. Don't ever do that, because invariably everything is broken on it. The air conditioning doesn't work, and you don't find that out until you get into Southern California and it's 100 degrees. The alternator didn't work. We must have spent $4,000 on fixing the van on the road.
On that trip.
Yeah, on that trip.
And then subsequently probably spent more on the van than the purchase price of the van.
We bought a used van for about $22,000, probably put about $20,000 into it, sold it for $7,000, and then bought a newer van. And we've been very fortunate since.
So in that, just a little case study, retrospect, hindsight, we should have rented ourselves a van for that trip.
Absolutely. Fallen in love with something.
Something.
And then gone out around
Taking our
pricing.
time.
Yeah. Funny thing was the short Sprinter van didn't exist. Like, you couldn't buy it.
And for some reason we thought we wanted the short wheelbase and short height.
Well, at the time,
time.
if you remember, we were parking in a garage that we wouldn't have been able to put a tall one in.
Yes.
And that would have been a pretty big challenge. But, we didn't know.
We learned.
We the hard way.
Yeah.
The Ron Burgundy. Heady days.
So what's the best piece of gear that you've acquired in 20 years?
Well,
From where you sit.
From
which
where I
is different
sit.
than where I sit.
I think the van, the Thiele van with the Tommy lift and the carts have been a huge plus for sure. I think that staying on the front end of drones has been really important. It gives our pieces a look and feel. I think that it's harder to get because we're using an Inspire 3, and we've kind of, we got the Inspire 1 when it was early, we got the Inspire 2 when it was early, we got the Inspire 3 when it was early. I don't know what's next, but we kind of need to stay there. I think the Canon C500 was a really great buy. I can't believe that we're still using that camera after
Workhorse.
5 years. The Cine lenses, the Canon Cine lenses were another great purchase for kind of the workhorse territory. I love these new anamorphic lenses that we've been using. I think embracing lights and stain with one manufacturer so that they're all working together, aperture,
We're pretty committed.
has been really nice. It's hard to think of one thing other than the van that has just changed our lives.
Yeah, so significantly.
But there are a lot of medium-sized things that we've, invested in, and some of them were really hard investments to make from a financial perspective. But knowing that constant improvement, having the right gear to do the job, making your shoots more efficient, getting better footage, like the one wheel plus the Ronin is like unbelievably great to be able to have moving.
Like the dolly that is this big that's in the van all the time.
Yeah, and we don't have a crane, and we don't have a dolly.
Well, we do.
We have a short dolly for sure.
And we have a jib that we never use.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
we don't ever crane, and we rarely use a dolly unless it's just a slow movement on a subject for an interview.
And we have time.
So being able to get great moving shots with a drone, car mount, or the Ronin has been beautiful.
Yeah. Nice.
So those some of the
Some
highlights.
standouts.
Yeah.
Cool. How about best project or favorite project followed by worst project?
It'd be the same thing. Same one.
Oh.
Overall, I think that the best projects have a couple things in common. One of them is actually travel. I really do like to travel within some bounds there. I mean, I love that we went to Alaska. That was a highlight. I love this last trip where we, with Oxford, that we got to go to Chicago and to New Orleans, and in the Midwest was really cool. We went to Bend, of course, too.
Yeah.
So those are highlights for me, is that we get to go on some adventures. Other highlights are building the relationship with clients. So, I have some very favorite clients that I just love to work with over and over again, that partner well with us and become, co-producers. I love that dynamic because that's really fun. We get to dip in their world. The best projects for me are projects that we have to learn something. So we have to dive into a whole new genre, or in some project, or some science or whatever. Just learning, constant learning is super fun. And then, I think the ones that stand out the most are the ones that had some sort of impact. Like the Air of Megafires wasn't probably the most creative piece we ever did, but it probably has one of the biggest impacts of a film that we've done on changing how people perceived, forest prescriptions and the reason behind why our forests are burning up. And knowing that got out there, that it changed the way people talk about it, the way people think about it, is a huge deal to me. Fish War, unbelievable opportunity to share, to help the tribes of the Northwest share their story. I'm so honored that we got to do that work. I feel like after watching for the last 18 months of them sharing that film,
Screen that film hundreds of times,
and how proud they are of it. Seeing Ed Johnstone talk about it, and he feels like he owns that film, and I think that that's really a huge deal. Is that he recognizes that story is his story, and he is proud to tell it, and it is changing the way people think about tribes and about fish and about the state of Washington and about our laws and history. That's the best of everything. Great clients, great projects, and we're actually making an impact with them.
Yeah, seeing
It's a
the
beautiful
impact.
thing. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Any horror stories or worst?
Well,
worst, you could go with worst shoot. We don't want to throw anyone under the bus, so it doesn't need to be like worst client, although we've all got those stories.
We did a couple projects, especially early on, that were fiascos. we did a couple very, very corporate, soulless pieces that were it just felt greasy, and I hate that.
It sticks with you.
Oh,
it's
does.
still back there.
I can still remember it very clearly, and I want to erase that from my brain. The one where we bought that camera for, it was some show that this person was going to do, and then it turned out that they were basically getting people to pay for advertising, and they were mocking it up in a show, and so it was basically a scam. And we got taken in, and we bought a camera for it, and had to sell a camera. That was kind of a frustrating deal. I've had some mishaps go with the notes process that have been really, really painful. And I don't want to point any fingers, but that was really a frustrating time when we got into the 17th and 18th round of notes and still didn't have something that they were going to be happy with. And we had to go around them and go above them. And, that's just terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Very frustrating.
Definitely.
But, I think we have opportunities to learn, and that's not a bad thing. So, we can make mistakes and learn from them, and that's an important part of the process. And I don't walk away from those things as being angry or frustrated. So, all in all, I think we've been really lucky. I think over the years we have found that the worst scenario that we find ourselves in is that if we're being gatekeeped by somebody between us and the client.
Oh, yeah.
So if we don't have a free access to the client to understand what they want.
The persons whose ultimate expectations we are trying to satisfy.
Yeah, and we have somebody in between, whether that's a marketing person or a communications person, or it doesn't always work that way, but the more distance we have from the client, the more it seems to be painful and prone for failure.
I have learned to do something in how I communicate with clients from day one to the end. And you can't always say to a client, hey, I want to make sure you're the person who has the final say on this project. Is there somebody behind you that I don't know about? It doesn't always work to find that out. But at every moment when you are looking for client feedback, you can ask for, and we do, for anyone who is going to provide feedback, any notes giver. I call them notes givers. I don't know if other people do that, but anyone going to give notes needs to input at all these processes, and even making sure that when feedback is received, confirming with your client, want to make sure before we address these notes that you're not expecting feedback from anybody else on your team. And that that took a long time to get to that clarity and pattern of communication with clients from the beginning. Like the first draft of the script treatment, when you share it, it's like if we need to know, you must have everybody look at this. Who's going to have a say on how this project goes?
Yeah, because the thing you're fighting against, which I appreciate, is not necessarily the project that goes completely sideways, which of course we're trying to protect against that always, but it's really the project where you have somebody in one department doing, managing this project. It's theirs to manage. They want to get it to a point where they can share it, but then they do have to go above to another round of committees above them. The government's this way every time.
Yeah.
And that's how, through experience, you know that's going to happen. So you just build that in and say, can we talk about the notes process? And, you can gently talk to them about that and say, is this a project where we're going to have to do that? And they inevitably say, well, yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. And then you say, okay, cool. We're going to build that into
the budget
and the contract, and know that we're going to have to please the person we're working with in the department head space, and then they're going to want it perfect, not sort of rough drafty, and then we're going to have to share it to these people. And we know that those people, because of their position, they always have to say something.
Got to give a note.
They got to give a note, so you just have to build that into your contract and just accept it when it happens, because it's going to happen.
Yep. And hopefully they bought the original vision before it got to them.
Well, I think your emphasis on making sure that even at the early stages of the game, from script treatment to script, all these things has, reminding them that they're going to have to pass this by their higher ups to make sure that they're bought in. And I think that's paid a lot of dividends in efficiency.
Yeah, because you definitely, to get to the end of a project and say, hey, we built this together, we got it here, and then find out that somebody had a completely different take, and we never even knew.
Right.
It's tough.
Well, and it definitely goes back to that relationship of being co-producers with that. We want them to fight for it too. Our client, who we've worked with through thick and thin to make this thing happen, we want them, as they pass it up, to say, I'm proud of it. I worked on this. I think this is exactly what we need. Here's why. And if they're defending it at that position, as they show it to the next round up, likely it's going to go better.
Not, this is what those video guys came up with.
And it's, yeah. I mean, you just point at the clients that are more in that sort of, we're doing this together, versus the ones that aren't. Has a lot to do with culture.
Totally.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for visiting with me.
My pleasure.
Oh. And we want to know if you want to hear more content like this, if these conversations are of value, if you have questions that come up, throw them in the comments. Hit subscribe if you're having fun and want to see what's coming next. Thanks for watching.